every single fandom knows the experience of when they have somebody that dislikes it, and when you find out the reason, it doesn't really make a lot of sense, or it's such a low level or an effort of a reason that it's so easily dismissed. With Chainsaw Man, I think it's like from what I've seen, people just oh, it's just kind of endless and ceaseless, pointless violence and gore, and there's nothing really else to it. I mean, Chainsaw Man definitely has a lot of crazy actions, a lot of plot twists, and definitely a lot of gore. But it also has a ton of more character-driven stuff, a lot more like deeper psychological aspects into the story that people don't really seem to really pay attention to. I mean, even just like the part where Makima was explaining to Denji the difference between just like the level of effect you can get from being with somebody that you actually care about versus that you're just kind of like going through the motions with, just kind of like hooking up with. Well, showed a lot about like the author's level of trying to like portray and pass out emotional and deeper aspects of like how people are and how people think, and just like ways that they experience things. Because when you look at the series, like at the start, Denji didn't have a lot to his character, but that's because he never really had the chance to develop into being like his own person. Because for the most part, like his whole life was just making money and trying to scrape by because of the debts that his father like racked up with the Yakuza. And this chapter was a really good example of just a very character driven like chapter. There's no action, there's no craziness. It's well, there's a little craziness at the end, but a completely different reason. But it goes to show like this chapter very specifically, it goes to show like a lot of any of the people that just don't think there's anything to the series and the characters is ridiculous. So the chapter starts out, you have Denji like waking up, he's got Power like sleeping like on his chest, and we're kind of like seeing the aftermath of all this stuff with Santa Claus, the Darkness Devil, and whatnot. And Denji's like talking to Aki about like how Power like kept them up all night. She's been freaking out and like just in constant fear and flashbacks of what happened with the Darkness Devil. We see Aki has one arm. I was actually a little bit salty about that because I'm just like, Aki just like, he has one of the most abused characters for such like a series that's only like a year and a half old. The dude does not ever seem to win. He like Kobeni also is one of those characters that just seems to kind of get the bad treatment, but Aki's is just relentless and nonstop. And now he's got one arm, and then he's gonna die like within like what was it, like a year and a half because of just because of the time that he's put out and using his powers. It's just unfortunate. Like his contracts are just whittling away at his life. Now he's got one arm. His family's dead. He lost Himeno. Things just are not going well for him. I'm so hoping he ends up becoming a hybrid and he becomes immortal. So bad. I'll be so sad if he ends up dead. Just because like the dude needs to be like a character that gets like a cheat way to live, because he deserves it after all this shit that's been happening to him. But we also find out like some other stuff of what's going on with other characters. Like the Angel Devil doesn't have any, or Angel Fiend doesn't have any. Actually, no, he is a devil, not a fiend. The Angel Devil is completely like without arms, so I'm wondering how that's gonna go. Like I'm very curious about this like literal disarming like plot advancement, because it's like what exactly does the author have like scheming for that? Is that gonna go anywhere? Or is it literally just the characters are now without arms? Um, Violence and Shark are both dead, which is it's unfortunate, but we know that they're not really dead. They're just back in hell, so they could come back at any time. The thing is like, are they going to come back in their full, and like when we get them back, are they going to be like more of like devils who are more aligned and passive with the main cast, or are they going to come back as as eventual enemies? As well as they could come back as fiend hybrids again. I'm hoping so. I liked Violence and I liked the Shark a lot. I like Beam was really cool. I liked his character. I'm sad that he's gone. There's the possibility that he'll come back, but then the question is like, how long will that take? Will he even be himself anymore? Because we know that they don't contain all their memories when they pass through. And then there's like Kobeni turn in a resignation, which is again also very sad because I like Kobeni's character, and I don't think she's gone. I'm very curious of what her like story is gonna go with, because I think she's gonna end up staying with the job because we know she needs the money. So hers is a very interesting kind of like again like trying to like push her towards like the way of like getting out. I think they're going to try and keep her in, or she's going to realize that she needs to stay in if she like pretty much wants to live her life, because she needs the money for, was it like sending money back home for her family through her brother. But I don't know. I'm curious to know where that's gonna go. But now Power is also like freaking out. She's been having like all these nightmares and all these fears about the Darkness Devil, which again is really intriguing because Power isn't like, she's not like just some random girl. She is a devil like that took over somebody's body. She's a fiend. She is like a literal being from hell that is experiencing all this trauma and all this fear, and she's like, cause very dependent on Denji. Like it's a very interesting thing to think about, because when you look at it, you see that the devils really like have a lot of human aspects as well. They have their own fears. They have things that they worry about, things that really will just cause them terror. And the Darkness Devil doing that to Power is really intriguing. Now, then we're like seeing like just like how much he's like freaking out and how much Denji pretty much just has to like take care of her, and um, he's just talking about like, man, it's Makima's pretty strong. Like she was able to actually go on her trip, but she doesn't seem phased by all this. And we see a flashback of Denji talking to her, and I think Denji's kind of like struggle for humanity that we got earlier is really like paying off when we're seeing here that he went against something that he wanted to do. He wanted to go on this trip with Makima, but he stayed behind because he knew that Power was like very afraid. She was damaged and she's like very dependent on him right now. And he knew that going on this trip would be selfish, and he wanted to, be there to help her, which is really nice. And I think when you look at like the series and you have like the male lead and the female lead usually end up together, and like with Power and Denji, it was really weird because they didn't get along. They had a dynamic, but there was never up until this point much of like how would that ship even work. And here we see like he does care about her, she does care about him. It's more of like how it's being developed now, and I do like that a lot. I like Denji showing his human side. It shows that even if he like has like gray areas where he doesn't seem to like have that natural human response to things, right now he does, and he's very much worried about her. And we get into some more like erotic parts when she's just like asking him to come like take a bathroom because she doesn't want to be alone, and like they're like straight just like in the bathtub together. She's like in his lap. She's got dick just pressing up against her. And I'm very curious to know if Power like at any point has had sex, and not from like an erotic standpoint. Like I'm thinking like in the idea, she is a creature from hell that has possessed this person's body and now like become like her own being. And like is she gonna end up like losing her virginity, and like how is that gonna go when you have this eternal being that is like cycling between one world to the next, this like creature that dwells on fear of something like the blood, because even though she's a fiend, she still originates from a blood devil. So she is like, again, like this being that draws her power and her existence off of the human nature and human fear of blood. So it's just a weird kind of concept when you're humanizing one of them and you have them in something like this. I really like that right now about Chainsaw Man. I think that the way that Fujimoto does chapters like this, where they're really like he's laying like character development interactions, it's really good, but like the humanizing of some of these characters is really intriguing. But then you have someone like Makima who just doesn't seem to have any human like empathy or just real nature in general, and there's like an ominous malefic kind of tone to her. But then you have this character like Power, who is a devil that's taken over a body that is going through such an interesting development, when we know like beforehand how she was like with Denji, and how the interactions in the last since she was introduced, I want to say chapter 5, I think 4 or 5 is when she first showed up, and since then like the way that she's been developing and like how much she's been attached to Denji and how now she's needing him to feel safe and stuff. And like while they're in bed, like she's just asking him not to hate him, and she's sorry that she needs him so much right now. it's really nice. It's a really nice feeling for like seeing where her character is and seeing, I think, a really organic development between the two of them. And especially like also like on top of that, like even like how these characters have been going through, they've been going through all this shit, and like how much they've kind of like just gotten used to each other and bonded since then. Like look at like Denji and Aki's like the way they interact back from the start versus now, and they're not like, yeah, we're BFFs now, but it's like you know that they have some respect for each other after all the stuff they've gone through. And I that's one of the things I really like about it. And I know the series is completely unrelated, but like I that's one of the things I like about Fairy Tail is like the character interactions, and I think how well they're done, and the way that like the characters, like how organically they develop and kind of like bond with each other. It's one of the things that I think this chapter does excellently. I think it does it at a superb level of getting the points of how these characters got to this point, and the question is like where this is going from here. And like by the end of it, when if Denji ends up with power, you'll like look at chapters like this and you'll see like these were very big developments into what led up to this, to where it made sense, and you could see where their relationship eventually grows from, and then eventually like blossoms into like a full flourish like ship if it ends up like that. Well, so we'll see. I'm very curious to know like what we'll get like later with like any of the devils that have died, because we could potentially get any of them again. Any of the devils we've seen, we could get again because we know how their life cycle works. They die in the human world, they go to hell. They die in hell, they come back. And like any of the ones that we could see again, like the Bat Devil or like the Eternity Devil, any of those guys, that'd be kind of like, hey, it's these guys again. I'm more intrigued to know about like ones that were allies like Violence and like Beam. So we'll see. Very intriguing chapter. The stuff at the end, like with just Denji in the door, like in his dream, and he's like, it probably isn't that you should learn anything and everything there is to know. Same goes for all those assassins who came to kill me. If I'd known their circumstances, learn what kind of people they were, then I'd probably have felt crappy when they died. So Denji is like trying to like say, even though they came like at me, these guys came to kill me, I still need to think about like why, from their perspective, even if it was a danger to me, a problem for me, maybe it was all they had. Maybe it was the only thing they could do to live a life of peace and get to a better spot. And he's saying like, even when they died, then like maybe if I knew that about them, then I would have some compassion for him. Denji like right now is like thinking more of the perspective of his opponents, which I think is again really good. I think that's really good character development, really good writing, and I think it's this chapter alone is like one that you could put up and anybody's like, Chainsaw Man, it's just mindless gore. There's nothing really going on. Just show them this chapter, and like you can just give them bullet points, like stuff like this, and it works excellently. I'm curious to know what's going to go on with like Denji when he's talking about like whatever's behind the door that we know Pochita was like never open this. He's like, I don't really need to know. So he's kind of choosing ignorance over the potential calamity of finding out what exactly is behind there. And I think it's going to end up being like whatever reason that characters are coming after the chainsaw, and what was going on with Pochita beforehand that caused him to eventually like meet up with Denji, and why these people are after him. But anyway, other than that, though, comment below. Tell me your thoughts are about the chapter, and tell me your thoughts are on what's going on in Chainsaw Man. Like stuff like this, it's usually when you get like points in between an arc, and like you just got to have a really big action when you have kind of those cooldown chapters. They'll either can feel really good or just kind of like neutral. Usually, I don't think they feel bad and like a waste of time. But this was an excellent chapter. This was a really character driven and really telling chapter for just the cast themselves. But anyway, other than that, comment below. Tell me your thoughts are about this. Tell me your thoughts are about like Chainsaw Man as well, and like how do you feel about this? Did you enjoy it as much as I did? I thought it was great. But other than that, though, like I said, comment below, thumbs up the video, put the like button, subscribe button, and check out my other videos. Other than that, I appreciate everybody's already subscribed, and I thank you all for listening. Bye.